Episode 6 of the league is here, and I know you are ready for another insane 2 weeks. Yes, we're back to 2 weeks. We got weeks 9 and 10 up on the docket for this one, and let me tell you, we got some big conference games in this slate. We will get clarity on who the best teams in Conference USA are. In the Mountain West, we're going to start to see who can really separate themselves from the middle of the pack and join Boise State at the top of the conference. And then out in the Sun Belt, we've got a massive matchup here in Week 9. App State travels to Old Dominion. Noah Kevin looking to pull off a little upset there in Norfolk and turn that division on its head. In the MAC, it is quite literally a 3-team race, and we're going to get a better picture about where we stand in that conference. Specifically in Week 9, we are spanning coast to coast. We got a lot of teams in action. We got some major games that we're going to get to, and we're going to start in Conference USA. Coach Mo Shiesty Lewis is looking to bounce back from that loss to Jacksonville State last week, and they're going to have to do it against a Blue Raiders team that is on fire since their loss to Marshall in Week 4. We're going to pick this one halfway up through the first quarter. Delaware still on their first drive, long, methodical, capped off by a fullback dive touchdown. After last week, you know Coach Lewis is happy about that one. Blue Raiders facing a 3rd and 14 on their first drive, and the pressure gets home, giving the ball right back to Delaware. But we know how good this defense is. Parker Hughes with the interception. Great play to get the ball right back for the offense. And they would capitalize. 4th and 1. They're going to go big on big. Pitch out to Tyquan Yates, and he's going to be able to drive a semi into the end zone. This one living up to expectations early. 4th and 4 deep in their own zone, and Delaware's going to go for it. They're going to throw it short of the sticks and get stopped. That decision gave Middle Tennessee State great field position. And again, capitalize they would. Tyquan Yates again for his second score of the game. That one a little bit harder than the first, but still quite easy. And then the same thing would happen again. Delaware would go for it on 4th and 4. They wouldn't convert, but Middle Tennessee State would. Tyquan Yates with his 3rd touchdown of the game so far. They would get the ball right back before the half, and they would add another score. That is a 28-0 run for Middle Tennessee State since that first drive of Delaware, but they would answer before the half. Last play of the first half, and Middle Tennessee State's just going to check this one down. Miles Baller makes a cut outside, and he's got room. Are you serious? That makes it a 21-point game at the half, and Middle Tennessee State gets the ball coming out of the break. That is an unbelievable swing of events. They're on the first drive out of halftime. Vadiato's going to get outside of the pocket. He's going to throw on the run. What a seed to the back of the end zone. Rolling to his left to make that throw is pretty impressive. 28-point game now. Delaware needs to get an answer quickly as well, and they would. Zach Marker throws up a cannon and is able to convert for the touchdown. That big play pass was working for them. But I kid you not, the very next play from scrimmage, Tyquan Yates goes 75 yards for his 4th score of the game, and that would essentially put the nail in the coffin of this one. Blue Raiders win big, 56-21. And we got to hear from both coaches post-game.
The last 2 weeks, that's on me. Our players were good enough to win both of those games. And simply, I did not coach well enough to win either of those games. And, I tip my hat to both Parker and Bryce. They both had excellent game plans that, in my base defense and my base offense were not good enough to win those games. That being said, it was an utter failure on my part as the head coach of this football team to not make adjustments, to not scheme more creative things up, and to do things to put our team in a position to win football games. And we're going to get that figured out, I promise. I've gotten it figured out everywhere I've been. Bowling Green, Montana State, I'll get it figured out here. On defense, both teams we played had a clear identity, a clear thing they wanted to do. And as a coach, I failed at putting our defense in a position to make stops and to win those games. I stayed in what we like to do, but we played on their terms. And that's something I've never done before, and that's something that's going to get changed. So what are our plans going forward? I'll tell you, first off, we're going to win the next 5 games. We're going to win the next 5 games. We're going to go 9-3. Is that good enough to go to the CUSA title? Probably not. It's probably Middle Tennessee and Jacksonville State at this point, and that's okay. Because we're going to learn a lot from these 2 games, and I promise we are going to get better. We're going to win those last 5 games. We're going to be 9-3, and then we're going to win a bowl game. And a 10-win season is nothing to scoff at in the first year, and I'm telling you, that is going to happen. But also, I want to hold accountability. And this one was on me, and I take accountability for that. So I apologize, and I will be better. And we are going to get this turned around. So thank you.
First things first, I want to say good game to Delaware. That is a very well-coached team. They gave us all that we could handle. That passing attack is very good. Now I want to talk about our boys on our side, repping the Blue Raider. That was a very, very good game. Defensively, not quite up to our standards. Allowing 21 points is more than we would like. That passing defense almost gave up 300 yards. That is unacceptable. But they did make some plays. That, like I said, that's good offense. So offensively, we finally, for the first time this year, I felt like, really found who we are offensively. We found our identity. And a lot of that is due to using Javian Credle and Taekwon Yates much more than we did in previous weeks. It felt like we were a Jaquel Middlebrook show, and I didn't really want to be that anymore. So we did a good job of sharing the rock. And then, our guy Nicholas Vattiato, another 5 touchdowns here today, just doing what we ask him to do, and not doing too much, not pressing the issue. We want to be able to run play action off of our runs. We want to be able to use that deception to our advantage. And we thought, it did good. Where we go from here, well, we got a massive game next week against Jacksonville State. That's going to be, it's 1-2 in the conference, right? This could very well be a preview of our Conference USA Championship game. And we're going to go back to the film room. We're going to see what went wrong this week and how we can improve upon that. We understand that it's going to be a challenge, and we welcome that. There is nothing about that game that we don't welcome head on. We want every single second to be the best football that they can play, that we can play. So, really excited for that one. I think right now, at this point in the season, I feel really good about where we're at. That's it for me. You guys have a good one. Go Blue Raiders.
We head to the Mountain West for our next user versus user game. San Diego State taking on Fresno State in a big rivalry game. And it will be San Diego State on the board first, and they would do it 2 times. 14-0 lead for them. The zone read is a great call there. On the Bulldogs' next possession, they face 2nd and 15. They go to the screen, and those blocks are setting up awfully nice, and we are off to the races. That is going to be 6. What a way to respond for Sonnenberger Jr. and his offense. Next Aztec possession, we face a 4th and 5. They're in opponent territory. This is a little bit of a risky call, but if it pays off, you're still in business. Denegal's pass is into traffic and incomplete. And a bunch of Bulldogs field goals later, it is a 16-14 game, and San Diego State is driving. They get all the way down to the 1-yard line. They face 4th and goal. This one could swing the game drastically, and they get stuffed behind the line of scrimmage. That was a loss of 5, and Fresno State would go into chew clock mode, killing 6 minutes of game time, taking the 23-14 win and really cementing themselves atop the Mountain West Conference standings. And we're getting some breaking news. Coach Mike Roth has been suspended for their game against Old Dominion. He's being investigated for point shaving in an illegal gambling ring pertaining to his Week 1 loss to Charlotte. This is insane. It looks like it's an indefinite suspension. This is big news to drop in the middle of Week 9. And this would affect App State early on. 4th and 7. Colton Joseph's going to keep it, throw a spin move, break like 3 tackles. This is what you get when your head coach is not on the sideline. He's spending too much time trying to make an extra buck. But a roughing the kicker would give App State new life on their next offensive drive. They would capitalize the very next play, scoring a touchdown and tying this thing up at 7. Maybe they don't need Coach Mike Roth after all. Well, they would. Colton Joseph, for his second time, finds the end zone. That is 14-7 Monarch lead now. And guess what? They would score again, a minute 39 before the half, and they're going to give it to the running back this time, right up the gut. 31-7 final. Yeah, maybe they do need Coach Roth. That was an ugly way to lose it. And all of a sudden, the Sun Belt East becomes a little bit more interesting. Felt like after the win over Coastal Carolina, they would be in the driver's seat, but that loss is going to hurt them. And the MAC race is heating up. We've got a 4-team race kind of at the top of the conference there. We're going to check in on 3 of those 4 teams. And we're going to start with the Ohio Bobcats as they travel to Ypsilanti, Michigan, trying to keep that winning streak alive. No Parker Navarro this week. He's still dealing with some injuries, so you get Tim Carpenter, the backup, instead, and the future looks bright in Athens. Check out this throw. Shows veteran presence to evade the rush, set his feet before he throws, and deliver a dime on the run for Chase Hendricks to be able to run that one in. A couple of drives later, he's showing off the patience, waiting for his drag to develop, and hitting him for the touchdown. 35-21 now. And Carpenter's going to fake the give here, and he's going to find Chase Hendricks again, this time in the back of the end zone. And this Ohio offense is rolling lately, a 60-burger for you today. Let's check in on the UMass Minutemen. They're up the road in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, taking on the Central Michigan Chippewas, and this one would be all UMass. They would blank Central Michigan on their way to a 20-0 win. This defense is playing lights out this season. Truly the best defense in the MAC conference, and it's why they have a shot to win the conference title. They do have to clean up offensively. 4 picks from Brandon Rose today. You can't be doing that if you want to beat a team like Ohio in the championship game. Toledo is the odd team out right now in the MAC title race, but they actually played a non-conference game in Pullman, Washington today, taking on Washington State, and they would get the party started early. They're down 7-0, but Tucker Gleason finds his receiver way downfield. You know the Rockets love the deep ball, and of course they're going to hit that well again. Gleason showing off the arm, back of the end zone. That is Rudolph for another touchdown, and they're going to add to their lead right before the half, up 14-7. Gleason rolling out of the pocket on the run, going to find his drag for the touchdown. And it wouldn't be over there either, because, of course, they're going to have to add a few more. 35-21, your final after a late Washington State push, but not enough. And we're going to take a look at the 4 teams that are in this race. Obviously, you have Ohio and UMass, who are currently undefeated. They do play each other in Week 13. Toledo, on the other hand, does not play anybody else on this list. They've already played Western Michigan and lost to them. UMass has a win over Western Michigan, which is why Western is 1-1 against the other teams on this schedule. Now, for UMass, their strength of record remaining does not have many big players on it, but neither does Toledo. Really, what this comes down to is, can the loser of the UMass-Ohio game run the table? If they do, both of them playing Western Michigan, then they will both be in the conference championship game. If they happen to slip up one more time, that opens the door for Toledo. Obviously, Ohio is your best bet. They are the favorite right now to win the conference. They are the best offense in the conference, bar none, averaging nearly 42 points a game, putting up 450 yards. UMass, on the other hand, is your best defense. Offensively, they still haven't figured it out a ton, but they're allowing 13.1 points per game and just over 330 yards. That's winning football. Toledo is probably your most well-rounded, your best balance of offense and defense. They have that average point differential of around 20. You just really don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season, right? That game between UMass and Ohio is so big and it's looming over everybody, but you still got to play the other games and win. So let's go into the other MAC games. Bowling Green still looking for that first FBS win. They're taking on Kent State, and this would be a Bowling Green touchdown to tie things up. And really from this point on, it was all Bowling Green. They'd add another one halfway through the second quarter on this touchdown run right here. That one was very easy. The offensive line did exactly what they needed to do. But as we fast forward to the end of the third quarter, they're up 31-13. Make that 38-13. And that is a Bowling Green W, their first against an actual team this season, and they mollywopped Kent State. Very fun to watch for the Bowling Green faithful. Buffalo, on the other hand, is still looking for that first FBS win. Akron jumped all over them early, and as we've seen, Buffalo kind of just played themselves out of it. A pick six right here really put the nail in the coffin if it wasn't already in there. But, you know, you're talking about the first half. This game is already over, and it's in large parts of the Buffalo offense being the worst in college football, and the average turnover differential that they have per game is not good. Now, they would not get blanked from the end zone. They did find it. They lose 41-13, still in search of that elusive first FBS victory. Louisiana Tech is taking on Western Kentucky in some Conference USA action. Western Kentucky looking to stay in the race as much as they possibly can. And this would not be a great start. That is a head top in triple coverage. Normally, you're not supposed to throw it in triple coverage. The Louisiana Tech quarterback apparently didn't get that memo. Would not matter because it worked. Another Louisiana Tech field goal later, and Western Kentucky would finally counter back. That one gets them down to the 1 yard line. Now 3rd and goal. They're just going to hand this one off for the score. Dive over 8 people. That is how you get airborne. We'd like to see more of that from these running backs. Now 19-13, and McIver going to force this one, and this one is going back for 6. You break a tackle, and all of a sudden it feels like Western Kentucky is really out of this one. But hold on a second, because it's not over yet. McIver orchestrates a beautiful drive to get his offense into scoring position, and they would do just that, untouched into the end zone. Now they need their defense to get a stop. 3rd and 2, and that is not how you want to defend the RPO. Louisiana Tech upsets Western Kentucky and now puts the Hilltoppers Bowl eligibility into question. Utah State in the same boat as Buffalo and Bowling Green, looking for that first FBS victory, and that is not how you want to start this one. Ball on the ground, returned back for a touchdown. That, folks, is called a scoop and score. But listen, Bryson Barnes is no quitter, and we know this. On the run, he's going to throw it on up to apparently a wide open player to tie this ball game up. But that defense, man, that Utah State defense is so bad. You cannot let that happen. Again, they counter right back. This was a back and forth game, man. This is exactly what this Utah State team does. Their defense gives up a big touchdown. The offense answers back. And they do that for about 3 quarters. And then the 4th quarter comes, and they shoot themselves in the foot and lose this game. That wouldn't happen here, though. This run obviously doesn't help, right? Down 24-21 now. Now down 31-21 after another touchdown. But the deep ball, Corey Thompson Jr., where have you been all game? Well, he's here. He showed up right before the 3rd quarter break. Bryson Barnes finds his favorite receiver. And now a little screen. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are all the way inside the 2-minute warning, and Utah State has a lead. Would they be able to hold on? The answer is no. The defense, again, causes heartbreak. And you can see the defeat in Coach Taylor's eyes on the sideline after the game. It's just tough to watch. Louisiana is taking on Troy in some Sun Belt West action, and this would not start off well for the Louisiana defense. And that was a theme for them in this one. The offense was playing from behind the 8 ball for basically the entire game, but this bubble screen would get them right back into it, cutting to that 10-0 deficit a little bit. You got to wonder which Walker Howard we're getting here today. Is it good one or is it bad one? Because when he's good, man, this team is very fun to watch, and he's playing really well so far here today. 17-14 now after that touchdown. Very next play from scrimmage. Yeah, if you're going to press, you better be able to jam them at the line of scrimmage. They can't, and the Louisiana defense is burnt toast yet again. Not much raging happening in Lafayette right now. But listen, this offense, they had no quit in them today. Walker Howard with the bullet, right? He sees that blitz right away, and he knows where to go hot. That's 3 touchdowns for him already on this one. Now down 24-21 as we enter the 3rd quarter. Another bubble screen for a touchdown. That's 4 of them on the day for the Raging Cajun quarterback. Now they're up 35-24, but the defense again, just like we saw with Utah State. We're in the fourth quarter now. It is do or die time, 3rd and 5, and that is not what you want. Losing 5 yards there is killer. They have to punt the ball away and rely on the guys that have let them down time and time again so far, and they would do so again. Sometimes you just got to stop trusting those guys and trust the dudes that have put you in a position to win the game. The defense was atrocious in this one. 35-38. You need a last gasp, and they're taking all the time in the world. Walker Howard, man, we got to get something going here. A little play action, and he's going to find his receiver down the field, but is there enough time to get the spike off and tie this ball game up? It doesn't look like they're in much of a hurry right now. The clock has not yet started. Now they're getting going. I don't know if they're going to get this thing off. They're getting the spike formation 2-1, and that one is not in time. Unfortunately, Louisiana cannot get it off. They lose 38-35, and that one, that's a tough way to go out. And the Raging Cajuns have been a completely different team on the road, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. As you can see, offensively, they're not a ton difference. They are scoring many more points per game at home versus on the road. But what you really need to look at is the yards per game allowed. At home, 285. On the road, 452. And 46 points compared to just 14 at home. This is inexplainable, yet one of the most interesting facts and storylines going on in the league right now. This team cannot play on the road. At home, they're practically unbeatable. I can't explain it to you. I just thought I'd share because my eyes and my mind cannot comprehend it right now. Let's go back to Conference USA as Missouri State is still looking like some other teams in this conference for that first FBS victory. And I'm going to spoil it for you. They would not get it here. It was all New Mexico State early. And this is basically the bottom of the barrel in Conference USA, and Missouri State struggled mightily offensively in this one. The defense played really well, and that is something to take, that silver lining to take home is that even with the pick six, they only allowed 27 points. Take that away, they lose this game 20-11. If the offense is just able to figure it out, if Jacob Clark is able to hone it in and stop throwing the ball to the other team so often, they could win a couple of games to finish off the season on a high note. Everybody in Springfield would love that. Scoreboard recap, that's right. We are already to the end of week 9. Middle Tennessee State, big win over Delaware. That puts them firmly in the driver's seat for a Conference USA title appearance. Obviously, the Western Kentucky and Missouri State losses are going to help separate the pack a little bit there. In the MAC, 4 out of 5 teams come away with a victory, including all 3 of the teams at the top of the conference. And Bowling Green picks up the illustrious first FBS victory in the P. Rizzi era. Over in the Mountain West, we saw Fresno State beat San Diego State in that user bout after the 14-0 San Diego State lead. Great job by that Bulldog defense. Utah State loses another heartbreaker. What is new there? And then Nevada played Boise State, but unfortunately, Coach A. Would You Blow Me was not on the sideline. Undisclosed medical reasons for his absence in that one. They lose 45-24. Hopefully, Would You Blow Me is okay. In the Sun Belt, ODU, again, Mike Roth suspended. Gambling. Can you believe it? There have been some rumors about other things with that head coach, but gambling was not one of them. This one is interesting. That would explain the week 1 loss to Charlotte. ODU capitalizes, winning big and throwing that Sun Belt race into a little bit of a tizzy. And then obviously Louisiana, the heartbreaking loss to Troy on the road. They just cannot figure it out to be in the road team. And you hope that one day they do, because man, it's tough to watch. The players of the week in Conference USA, Tyquan Yates, 10 carries, 118 yards, 4 total touchdowns, one of them through the air. He was a force to be reckoned with against Delaware. Cedric Woods does pick up Defensive Player of the Week against Western Kentucky for that defensive touchdown. DJ Warnell Jr. with 2 interceptions, and that Nevada loss to Boise State picks up, and a forced fumble. So, it's 3 turnovers forced, picks up Defensive Player of the Week there. In the Sun Belt, Jason Henderson with 16 tackles and 4 for loss wins Defensive Player of the Week honors. And then Shelton Sampson Jr., 9 catches, 133 yards, and 2 scores. Even in the loss, that is very impressive. And then we're going to take a look at the interception leaders so far this season. Bryson Barnes leads with 29, Daquan Robertson with 27, Drew Pine 21. Tucker Gleason has 18, albeit a lot of touchdowns. But as you see, we keep going down. It is dominated by a lot of quarterbacks that head up the league teams. So something to watch as we get closer to the end of the season. Who's going to be the last one standing when it comes to interceptions? As we move ahead to week 10, we get to probably the biggest game of the league so far. That's right, Middle Tennessee State and Jacksonville State battling atop the Conference USA standings, both undefeated in conference. But we also have a ton of other really good, exciting games. We have a user versus user battle in the MAC Buffalo taking on Bowling Green. We've also got close games galore. I'm telling you, there were a ton of games this week decided by one score or less. It truly was one of those weeks. But we're going to start with that game of the week in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Middle Tennessee State taking on Jacksonville State. Like I said, they're battling for that top spot and potentially home field advantage in the Conference USA title game. Let's take a look at how these two teams match up before we get into this game action. You're looking at Middle Tennessee State, who is statistically the best defense in college football, allowing only 11.7 points per game, 212 yards per game. They are the best passing defense in the entire country. Jacksonville State, on the other hand, has a lethal, high-octane offense. 406 yards per game, 39 points per game. Yeah, the defense is no slouch either. You see those stats right there. And the Middle Tennessee State offense, while they don't have a ton of yardage, the team knows how to put the ball in the end zone. We've seen them score over 50 points multiple times this season. But enough of this on paper stuff. Let's get into the action. Jacksonville State with the ball first, and they've driven the ball all the way down to the 5-yard line. Their first attempt at a first and goal, and they get it. That is a 7-0 Jacksonville State lead. It looks like we have the makings of a high-scoring affair, so the offense is going to have to keep up, and this is not how you want to do that. That ball is sat on, picked off, and taken back for a touchdown. That is the bajillionth pick six so far this season. It's now 14-0. Middle Tennessee State drove the ball all the way down the field on their next possession, but on 4th and 6, get sacked. This one is getting ugly and quickly. Another Jacksonville State touchdown right here. 21-0, and everyone is shocked. You can hear a pin drop inside that stadium. 4th and 4, and they're going for it. Risky bet, but it pays off. Later that same drive, still down 21-0. Clock is ticking here in the first half. Vadiato fakes the handoff and finds his tight end, Tavion Galloway, and he's got plenty of room. Middle Tennessee State finally on the board. Right before the half, though, Jacksonville State drives all the way down for the field goal, but they miss it left. That is life for Middle Tennessee State. Now, they get the ball coming out of half. A score here would be huge. The 2-minute drill works to perfection. Galloway, his second score of the game, and it's now just a 7-point ball game. Mid-third quarter now, Jacksonville State lining up for another field goal, and this one is wide right. Shank, that is 0 for 2 now on field goals. We got a 4th and 3 here for the Blue Raiders. This is in their own territory. We've seen this not pay off many times before for other teams, and they're going to get sacked. Interesting call there by Coach Doc Hudson to go for it, but the defense dug in and forced a field goal. Remember, the Gamecocks are 0 for 2 on the three-pointers today. This one, though, is an easy chip shot. That one goes in. It's now 24-14, 10-point lead for Jacksonville State. Middle Tennessee State driving, though, about halfway through the fourth quarter. This give is to Taekwon Yates. He cuts inside, and he finds the end zone. This is now just a 3-point game, a 21-3 run for the Blue Raiders. Next, Gamecock offensive possession. They're having some success in the air, but they face a 3rd and 6, and that one is short of the stick, setting up 4th and 1. This is a massive play here. If Jacksonville State gets this, it is over. But they are stopped. Middle Tennessee State gets the ball back, and they start driving. 3rd and 6 now. Clock is ticking. 45 seconds left in this game. Man comes in motion. Vadiato takes the snap. He throws it over the middle. That guy's wide open. It's Tavion Galloway, his 3rd score of the game. puts the Blue Raiders in front. They were down 21-0. But this is where heroes are made. Wimsatt rolling out of the pocket. He's going to fire this one down the field. That ball is caught on the sideline. They would go to a review, but it would count. This is unbelievable. They had just 40 seconds to do something. And Jacksonville State, Wimsatt again to the end zone. Touchdown! Jacksonville State is on top. Are you kidding me right now? This is game of the century type stuff. Final prayer for Middle Tennessee State. Vadiato's going to unload this one. That was about 70 yards, but not enough. It gets knocked down. Jacksonville State wins it. Are you kidding me? They stay on top of Conference USA. You will not see a better game than that ever. What an unbelievable performance from both teams. The 21-0 comeback to the ending. I mean, the final 2 minutes were insane. But let's not forget about this play. How about 2 broken tackles for Bowling Green? That is a long touchdown, and that would be a tone setter for what this game would be. Buffalo trying to respond on the offensive side of the ball now, and they're going to go to a little trickery. The double reverse pass is picked off. Roberson throwing his 28th pick of this season. He's got a lot of them. That's all I know for certain. And Bowling Green would capitalize with a field goal. And then on their next offensive possession, Drew Pine, the fake give. I mean, this is one of the best throws you're ever going to see. Are you kidding me? Rolling to his left, falling away on the run, throws it up to his wide receiver. He comes down with it, and now Bowling Green's up 17-0. But Roberson with the frozen rope over the middle to cut this lead into 10. But Bowling Green said, we'll get you right back. Very next play, Drew Pine having the game of his life. Remember, Bowling Green won last week. This was a chance to go 2 in a row for a squad that was struggling mightily against FBS opponents. Now 31-7, and Drew Pine says, hey, I got another one for you. Another wide open receiver. There were a lot of them here today, and Bowling Green would go on to win 41-14. That is 2 wins in a row now for the Falcons. Head coach P. Rizzi is fired up. And now to one of the biggest shockers in probably the entire league. 1-7 UL Monroe hosting Old Dominion, who's 5-3 on this season, and apparently one of the best defenses in the country just forgot how to tackle because that was atrocious. UL Monroe goes up 7. The Warhawks came to play today. Old Dominion would respond, though. A little dump off to the running back. He beats the defenders to the sideline and gets into the end zone and knot this thing back up. Have you ever seen somebody get absolutely embarrassed in the end zone? Well, you are right here. Are you kidding me? That's how you just throw it up and let your tight end make a play. UL Monroe, the Warhawks, they responded, and they continued to do so. This is just an absolute bomb right here. Yet that ball was caught, and it puts them inside the 5-yard line right before the half. And the very next play, they would cap it off, going up 21-7 on the Monarchs. The week after they set themselves up for a 3-way tie in the Sun Belt East, they get embarrassed. Another touchdown right here. 37-13 is your final. Uncharacteristic performance for the ODU defense. And sometimes when you underestimate a team, it comes back and bites you in the butt like it did here. Louisiana trying to avoid a 2-game losing streak. That's how you start it right there. I don't know what the defender was doing there, but Louisiana will take it. Walker Howard finds his receiver wide open for 7 on 4th down, mind you. But South Alabama would have the answer. We just got to work on tackling. I don't know what that was, but that is now a tie ball game. And South Alabama said, yeah, we're not done yet. Busted coverage on the back end. That would be another Jaguar touchdown. Raging Cajuns trying to tie this one up before the break. They got 1 timeout left. 30 seconds left in the first half. That ball is picked off, and he's going back in the other direction. I don't know if he's going to be caught. Walker Howard, you need to get him. He can't. That is such an amazing turn of events right before the half. But Louisiana would not let that phase them. They get back on the board. It's 21-24 now. They got the field goal to tie it up, but South Alabama with 55 seconds left finds the end zone on a 3rd and 1 weak side toss sweep. Are you serious? But listen, the Raging Cajuns were not going to call it quits yet. They were going to fight till the very end, and unfortunately for them, it would be right here. Walker Howard picked off. South Alabama pulls the upset 31-24. That's now 2 losses in a row for Hingle McCringleberry and the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, knocking themselves out of the Sun Belt West race. San Jose State is looking to put themselves in a really good position in the Mountain West, and a win over Hawaii would do wonders for that. We're already in the second half. Nothing really eventful happened in the first half, but on the opening kickoff of the second half, that is taken all the way down to Hawaii territory and would set up this QB sneak from Adam Matthews to give San Jose State the lead. But we decided that we were going to score points here in the second half. Hawaii driving all the way down inside the 10. They would convert, taking the lead right back. And they would add on to it, making it a 10-point ball game. Those blocks were ferocious. That San Jose State defense didn't know what hit them on that one. But you know that Adam Matthews would have the answer. Kaden, what a dot. That is definition of the breadbasket. Are you kidding me? The concentration on the throw, the catch to get inside the pylon is phenomenal. 3rd and 7, defense, please make a stop. Oh, he's got a step. This is not good. Oh, he drops it. That is a massive play from the Spartan defense. And guess what? The offense will reward them by scoring on the next drive, taking the 24-20 lead. Now they just needed one more stop. 4th and 16, and there's some confusion on the defense, and he's got all day to throw, but time finally runs out. The defensive line gets home. San Jose State wins 24-20 and puts themselves atop the Mountain West standings. Missouri State with a late 4th quarter lead. Could they hold on? That's what we're going to find out here. FIU on the QB keep finds the end zone to take 3-point lead. 3rd and 12 now. Missouri State trying to stay in this one, and Jacob Clark is going to force this into triple coverage. That is not great, and this one kind of fell apart from here. You thought this was going to be the week that Missouri State finally got that win, but the defense just let them down in the 4th quarter. Too many turnovers. They would lose 30-13 after that 13-9 lead they had at the start of the quarter. Just not very good and clean in the final frame. Western Kentucky in some other CUSA action, trying to stay in this conference race. The loss last week obviously hurts, but they're not out of it yet. And this throw would be a little too much dip on Maverick McIver's chip. He tries to fit that one in a tight window. And while it was a good throw, you know the defenders are going to converge. That one gets popped up and picked off. But the defense made a stand, and the offense would respond. Listen, you got to have a short memory, and we've seen that this year with Western Kentucky. A lot of turnovers, but they always come right back, and that is jumping over the pile if I've ever seen it. They take the lead. Hilltoppers on top right now, but the Aggies wouldn't go away, and this defense needs to learn how to open field tackle because this is embarrassing. I don't know what that was, but it is 7. That I do know for sure. We got a tie ball game. I feel like every time I show a Western Kentucky clip, it's either going to be a pick or it's going to be a touchdown. It's like a Russian roulette of sorts. This one, it's looking like a touchdown. Yeah, that is a wide open tight end. McIver cannot miss that one. Now we got a 14-13 game after 2 New Mexico State field goals, and they're going to take the lead right here. The defense, again, atrocious. That poor tackling set up New Mexico State inside the 5. 2 plays later, they capitalize with the slant. But a missed 2-point conversion makes this one interesting. 5-point game now. And that is backup quarterback Tucker Parks that gets picked off. Yeah, that's right. Maverick McIver got benched in this one. New Mexico State adds a field goal. They now lead by 8. But listen, if you're going to press Western Kentucky, you have to live with the consequences. That is a 73-yarder for the Hilltoppers to get themselves back in it. You do need the 2-point conversion, though. We're still in the 3rd quarter, so it's not the end-all, be-all. They would get it anyway. We tie this thing up at 22. We now move to the 4th quarter with 5:55 remaining. New Mexico State all day in the pocket, throwing to the end zone. That's what we call a head top, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, 2 games in a row. Are you kidding me? Western Kentucky cannot catch a break with that. 29-22 now. The run up the middle with 3 minutes left is a touchdown. I don't know if they were expecting that to be such a wide open hole, but it was. 3rd and 14, defense, make a stop for me one time. And they do. Come on, that's the way to step up. Offense, down the field. They get themselves in a field goal position, and this one is true. It wasn't pretty, but chucked downfield, and the Hilltoppers find a way to win and somehow stay in this Conference USA title race. They haven't been playing great football, but you got to come away with the win, and they did. San Diego State looking to bounce back from that loss to Fresno State, and I'd say this is a great starter to that. 4th and 1, they get a touchdown. They said, we're not going to settle for just the first down, and then they would add another field goal. We're in the third quarter, late third quarter, and not much offense here, but the defense is playing really well. Denegal making some changes at the line of scrimmage. Eventually, he's going to snap this. There it is. And that's about as easy as it gets. It seems like the length of pre-snap adjustments confused the Wyoming defense, leading to an easy score, 17-0. Now we're in the fourth quarter. This is an easy give, easy touchdown. 24-8 is your final. Back in the win column for the Aztecs. And we got to hear from Coach Alfred Booth after this game. Let's hear what the Slug had to say after this one.
We're happy with that one. We really are. We are really happy with that one. We would have loved a shutout, and we're close, but, you know, we take what we can get. Still not loving how much we're getting the ball run on us, but Trey White, 3 sacks today. Again, another great day for him. We know he's probably going to be gone at the end of the season, so getting as much out of him as we can is probably for the best. At least develop him so he can beat us when he's on Alabama next year. I thought the boys played well. Really didn't do anything too crazy schematically. Just worked hard and a couple of drag routes that got us 10, 15, 20 yards at a time, and then run the ball the rest of the time. I thought we played great. I'm very happy with the boys. It's a great bounce back from last week after that humiliating loss. Absolutely humiliating. We will see him again. We will. I don't know where. Maybe next season. But we will. We'll have our revenge in Fresno State. But we're happy today. We went and beat the Cowboys. So, thank you. Thank you, Cam.
Let's go to the other ocean to see what Coastal Carolina was getting up to at Myrtle Beach. They were taking on Marshall, and I feel like everybody has played Marshall so far this season. That's an easy touchdown right there, and all of a sudden it is 14-0 still in the first quarter. Let's make that 21-0. Emmett Brown over the middle to his receiver. That is an easy one. It's 31-10 now. I mean, we're just going to keep bouncing around, and we got another touchdown. Emmett Brown had himself a day, and as you can see, Coastal rolled in this one, keeping themselves in the Sun Belt East race. Back to Conference USA, Delaware taking on Liberty, trying to wash the taste of defeat out of their mouth. The last 2 games against Jacksonville State and Middle Tennessee State did not go how they wanted, and they would get out to an early 14-0 lead, and they would make it a 21-0 lead. Briddell finds the end zone again. Obviously, we're going to show a Jake Briddell highlight. Come on. You didn't think we wouldn't, right? He was nuclear. I think he finished with like 190 yards or something like that. Delaware cruises over Liberty and moves 1 win closer to bowl eligibility. Fresno State taking on Boise State on the blue turf, trying to stay in this Mountain West title race. And when you go against the best in the conference, you got to have your A game. Fresno State had about their C game. They're down 14-0 already, and Maddox Madsen is going to find the end zone again. This diving catch was super impressive. Put them up 21-0 right before the half. They're now up 28-0, and you already know where this is going. Add another one to the board, 35-0, but 42-0 would be your final. That Fresno State offense looked nothing like it did last week as they get blanked in this one. And that'll do it for the games we had this week. Super light week of games. Obviously, game of the century in Murfreesboro. Jacksonville State comes out victorious in that one. Gavin Wimsatt, your hero in Jacksonville, Alabama. Delaware cruising to a win over Liberty. Western Kentucky surviving. New Mexico State staying in the Conference USA title race. And then Missouri State still looking for that first FBS victory. And our only MAC game of the week, Bowling Green wins big over Buffalo. And you got to wonder how hot Hugh Janus' seat is becoming. In the Mountain West, San Jose State beats Hawaii by the skin of their teeth to put themselves in a good spot to play in the Mountain West title game. Obviously, Fresno State on the other end of that, losing in embarrassing fashion to Boise State. San Diego State, though, they got back into the win column and back to 500 and give themselves a good shot at making a bowl game this year. Out in the Sun Belt, it was absolutely insane. UO Monroe upsets ODU, and that is an East versus West battle too. It wasn't even the same division. South Alabama beats Louisiana in a game that Honestly, I think the Raging Cajuns would like back if they could play it again. Didn't think they played all that well. And then Coastal Carolina continues to win against the CPU opponents. The users are the only ones giving them trouble right now. They win 58-13 and keep themselves in that Sun Belt East race. If App State can just fall one more time, they'll be right there. Let's talk about players of the weekend. Look at that. Jake Bradell, 19 catches, 177 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I knew there was a 9 in there somewhere. I just didn't remember what it was. And then Gideon Lampron with a defensive player of the week for the national honors. 6 tackles, 1 TFL, 3 interceptions. Unbelievable week from him, and 2 PBUs. Could have had 5 picks. That is quite the stat line. And then for the defensive player of the week in CUSA, it's Trevor Woods. He had 10 tackles to go along with his INT that went back for a touchdown. And honestly, looking back on it, really gave Jacksonville State the win in that one. Offense kind of sputtered in the second half. That was the difference maker right there. And then for the MAC Offensive Player of the Week, Brennan Ridley with 5 catches, 147 yards, average of nearly 30 and 2 touchdowns. That is usually enough to get you MAC Offensive Player of the Week honors. And then in the Sun Belt, we had Carl Fontroy with the win over Old Dominion and his 2 PBUs, pick and forced fumble. And then Jamison Tucker with 7 catches, 156 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He reached the end zone 4 times. Gets the Offensive Player of the Week honors. Let's look at the Conference USA standings. Jacksonville State in sole possession of first place now with the win over Middle Tennessee State. Obviously, the Blue Raiders in second. Western Kentucky in third. Delaware in fourth. Not too much separation elsewhere. The bottom of the conference looks really bad right now. FIU, New Mexico State, and Missouri State with a combined 2 conference wins. In the MAC, we have Ohio, UMass, and Toledo, who were all on bye in Week 10. Western Michigan with a big loss. They fall from the 3 spot, open the door up for Toledo for a potential bid-stealing MAC title appearance. Bowling Green no longer in the bottom of the conference. They have 2 conference wins now, and they share a tied spot with Northern Illinois and Akron. In the Mountain West, it's Boise State alone at the top. San Jose State in that number 2 spot. And then we got a 4-way tie for third place, Fresno State being one of those teams, but having lost to Colorado State and beating Hawaii, it really makes things interesting amongst that cluster. San Diego State is the next team out with Air Force, New Mexico, Nevada, UNLV, and Utah State rounding it out. In the Sun Belt standings, we've got Coastal Carolina atop the East on a technicality with App State and Georgia Southern right behind them. If App State were to win again, obviously they have the tiebreaker over Coastal Carolina. ODU sits in 4th place with JMU, Marshall, and Georgia State behind them. Out in the West, it's Arkansas State's to lose. South Alabama, Texas State, and Southern Miss bring up right behind them. And then Troy, Louisiana, and UL Monroe are the last 3 teams. That is a massive fall from grace for the Raging Cajuns. When we did this last, they were up in that 2 spot, now in the 6th spot in the West. Maybe there's an outside shot. Unlikely, but maybe. That'll do it for me here today. That was episode 6 of the league, weeks 9 and 10. We are cruising through season number 1 with a lot of great storylines, and I promise you it's only going to get better from here. When you talk about conference title races that are just coming down to the wire, we're going to have possible playoff talk, but obviously the bowl games and then the offseason from hell. There's going to be a lot of transfers that you're going to have to worry about and stick around for. If you've made it this far, comment below who your favorite team of this series is so far, who you're rooting for, who you're riding for. Other than that, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the flip. See ya.